Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. Well, today is the moment of truth. After about 6 months of work, the MD is ready to start after sitting for 20 years. First thing is to fill up the transmission rear end with oil. I drained what was in here. It's been sitting for 20 years, so I don't feel comfortable running what was in it. In these old letter series, I just use whatever's cheapest. This is 80-90 gear oil. Well, that took a while. Only had one minor spill. I want to grease the clutch throwout bearing, which hasn't seen grease in 20 years. Just to make sure it's behind this little cover. Fill up the cooling system. 7 gallons. Put some gas in the starting tank. Open up the fuel at the sediment bowl and see if she flows. Sometimes these need to be cracked a little bit to let air in. There we go. A little bit oily from cleaning the tank. Crack it till it runs out a little bit. There we go. Switch it to gasoline mode so the bowl can fill up on the carburetor. Put some diesel in the main tank. Now there's a specific sequence to bleeding this diesel system that's different than modern diesels because this auxiliary filter pipes into the charge pump here, and then it comes out of the charge pump and through the final filter. So before the engine's running, you bleed the auxiliary filter and you bleed the water trap, and you bleed the final filter after the engine is running and the charge pump is working. Let me turn on the fuel here. There it goes. We just bleed these till the fuel runs out. Uh-oh. Well, here's my first problem. Looks like the gasket on this water trap is leaking, and you all know the problems I had with this thing. Oh, man. I'll try tightening it down and see if I can fix it that way. It seems to have stopped it, I hope. Now I can bleed this auxiliary filter here. Open it up till the fuel runs out. There we go. The auxiliary filter. Now I'm going to pre-lube the engine, and I have a set of fittings here which will screw into the oil pressure gauge port on the main oil gallery, and I have some hose and I have a 12-volt pump, and I'm going to pump oil through it. I have never pre-lubed a Farmall engine before after rebuild, but this one there's enough money in it where, I don't know, it seems like cheap insurance to me. I already had the pump. I just had to go out and spend 15 bucks on some hose and fittings. So this fitting screws right into the oil gallery here. There we go. Now I'm going to pump out of this 2-quart oil can here so I know how much I'm putting in. And the filter alone, I mean, my gosh, looks like it's close to 2 quarts, so I'm going to pump at least this much in. We'll see how she works. Put her in. There, it caught it, and there it goes in. New oil in the engine. We'll fill it up with oil the rest of the way. This takes 9 quarts. I already put about 4 in it. I've been getting 2 questions a lot, and I guess it's people that haven't watched the whole series. Why is the fuel tank not painted? Why didn't I paint it before I put it on? Well, because I want the fuel tank, the hood, and the front cowl to match paint-wise, and to do that, they all need to be painted at the same time. I can't put the sheet metal on and fit it until the tractor's all together like it is now. So one of the next things I'll do is fit all the sheet metal, clean it off, and pull the tank out. It's only a 5-minute job to take it back out. And then paint it all at once so it all matches. Second question I get, well, why didn't you paint the rear back end? It looks funny that way. The reason is because painting is number one, it's a lot of work. I got to clean it all off. I got to take care of any leaks in the seals. But more importantly, I'm going to take this back end all apart and check all the bearings, make sure everything's all right, clean out the cases. They get a lot of metal shavings in them. That is a job that will take me the better part of a winter, and I just don't have the time to do it now. So what I did is midwinter this year, I decided, well, I'm going to take it from this point forward and do that, and then next winter I can split the tractor and do the back end. Again, splitting the tractor is really not a big deal for these tractors, so that's why it is the way it is. Well, you ready? Let's give her a try on gas. That tick, tick, tick is the fan hitting the shroud someplace. I must have bent it a little bit. One of the fan blades was hitting the thermostat housing here. I'm going to run it a bit, see if that smoke clears up. I know what it may be. I may have the injection pump starting to run a little bit, and that's unburned diesel that's coming out. Yeah, I'm going to undo this lighting control on it. Diesel fuel I was trying to burn. Yeah, I gotta adjust this linkage here. I got a leak here on the diesel side. I'm just checking for leaks around the engine. I had a leak here at the thermostat housing. I tightened up the bolts and it seems to have stopped. The next step is to bleed the diesel side and then see if we can get her going on diesel. And in order to do that, I need to crack these injector bleeders one by one with the engine running and the diesel throttled on a little bit so it's pumping fuel, and I'll just crack these till I get a flow of fuel running out. We'll start her up again. You can tell it's pumping some diesel in now. I think they're probably fine because I had the diesel turned on for a while. Yep. Yep. Well, I think she wants to turn over to diesel. I guess it's time. She sounds good. She's running on diesel. Timing looks pretty good. There's not any smoke coming out of this exhaust. She's blowing a little bit out of the breather, but maybe just be the engine drying out. Here's a driver's seat view. Throttle her up. Keeping good oil pressure. Almost pegged the gauge right there. 60, 65 pounds. Water's starting to warm up, gauge is coming up through the cold zone. Man, she sounds nice. say the timing is right on there. I'll have to try it under load, but yeah, she is smoking just the tiniest bit. I'm going to let her warm up good and check the smoke and then adjust the ignition pump timing and see if I can make that a little better. I looked at when I tore the tractor apart and the pointer was left of center by a couple of hash marks, so maybe it needs to go back there. Now there's a specific way to shut these down properly. The first thing you do, and I'm just going by the original owner's manual here, is you turn it back over to gas. I had the ignition off, whoops. As you turn it back over to gas like that, you shut off the fuel supply at the gasoline tank and let the carb run dry. There we go, she ran dry. And now always put it into the diesel position so that the starting valves cool in their seats. I'm going to pull this back into the shop so I can take off the valve cover and retorque the head and check the valve lash. This is always a no fun job because you're like, yay, I just got it running, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to take it back apart. But I think this is an important step to make sure that your head gasket stays sealed. There we go. It's nice to see that the top end is getting good oil. There's lots of clean oil in here. Well, let's see how much more they'll take. A little bit. They always do take a little bit more. Now that I've got the head nuts all torqued and this back on, I can go through and re-gap the valves. I'm not going to take you all the way through this. You've seen this before. Just trust me, the settings have changed because I torqued the head down some more. Got the valves all set, put the valve cover back on. We'll take care of sealing up the air cleaner this time. I got our hose the right size. Put that on there. Let's get the steering shaft slid in here so that I can steer it. Got a new front bearing to put in here. I can hook up the steering shaft. Well, I got the steering all hooked up, so let's take her for a ride. And got the old man on the tractor. When I was just outside running around, it popped a few times and it was smoking. And I thought, well, must be the timing on the injection pumps off a little bit. So I pulled the cover and I actually set the timing back to what it was when I pulled the engine apart. It was 2 hash marks. I don't know if it was advanced or retarded because the little pointer doesn't say, but I set it to what it was. The smoke cleared right up and it's actually running better, I think, even than it was before. So I'm glad I took care of that. Well, I am beat. What a day. I'm so glad that it's running now. It's a big load off of my mind. Doing this project on YouTube was a lot more difficult than any of the other tractors that I've done. Not to mention how complicated the tractor is, but comments on YouTube get you second guessing yourself a lot because we all know how many experts there are sitting on their couch or sitting in front of their computer. Anyway, It runs great, and I want to mention I am so thankful to all the folks that donated to the GoFundMe when I started this tractor back in December. It made a huge difference, and I so appreciate your generosity. You guys made it possible. I think I have to add up the numbers, but I think so far I have in this tractor about 13,000, give or take 1,000. And I'm going to have more in the rear end. So in December I said it was probably going to be a $15,000 project. I'm going to be pretty close to it by the time I'm done, but it is all worthwhile to me. And having a tractor and seeing my dad drive it again after so many years was just amazing. What are the next steps? Well, I'm going to get some sleep, and I got a lot of farm work to catch up on. But other than that, I'm going to use this tractor to make hay this year, and I like the idea of running the engine in before I do anything else, because inevitably little things come up, leaks here and there. I already caught some today. I like to kind of do that run in before I go any further. But really the next step, and if I get some downtime probably after hay, first cut hay, I'd like to put the sheet metal on, clean up the sheet metal, put it on, fit the sheet metal, and the fuel tank as well, clean that up and paint all that so I have the whole front of the tractor looking like new. And I've got to do some work on the platform here. I got parts coming to fix the seat. The seat is all wonky, and I got to replace that starter switch because it's not working very well. So I want to leave you with one other thing, and that's sort of a little montage of video clips and photographs, what this thing was like when I started versus what it's like now, so that those of you who haven't followed all along can see the progress that was made and just some of the highlights along the way. I hope you've enjoyed this process. It's not done. I'll be picking it up next winter with the rear end again. That's a whole different kind of complication. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Why was it in here? Oh, looks like the mice like this place. Oh boy. Which is fairly significant on these sleeves. A little disappointing. Well, it didn't take long to find bad news. This is the number 2 piston that I just pulled, first one. Remember we saw that little dimple on the top when it was in the bore? Well, that's what caused it right there. And the ring was broken, this top ring. You can see this piece of ring's jammed in here. There's no way that I can reuse that piston. This box has new pistons. Look at them, all shiny and new. Beautiful. Lots of pieces to this assembly, I think. Valves and petcocks and filters. It's fine. There's a very slight amount of movement, but it's okay for these slow old engines. Looky what I got here. The machine shop called yesterday afternoon and said my engine was ready. Wow. One coat of primer on the engine. Well, here she is with 2 coats of paint. Looks like a different engine. Now, getting in line is the tricky part. I think I did this once already. Always easier the second time, right? Jiminy Christmas.